hope you understand that they're concerned enough about your welfare that they called us.
Oh, because they're scared, because I'm going to friggin' do something, because I am capable.
Like, what do you mean by that?
Huh?
What do you mean by that?
Nothing. No.
Okay.
On October 25th of 2023, a 40-year-old Army sergeant left behind a note for his son, and then he went and did something absolutely terrible. This is the massacre nobody mentions. Hello, friend. Welcome to High Time Crime. My name's Joel, and on here I specialize in true crime and also harmonies. Butter, soap, and toast. But anyway, today we're going over a twisted case that for some reason not many people mention. Considering it happened not that long ago and how tragic it was, you'd imagine that more people would, but that's why I'm here. Robert Russell Card II, often called Robbie, was born on April 4th of 1983 to his father Robert and his mother Brenda Card. He had an older brother named Ryan and a younger sister named Nicole. This family grew up in Bowdoin, a town in Maine, with a population of about 3,000 people or so. Robert's extended family was a large one in this town that went back many years, typically described as good and hardworking people that owned a lot of land. Their property spans hundreds of acres, and they were heavily involved in agriculture with their farm. Robert's father, Robert Sr., was a rural mail carrier and also the owner of the farm. Not only this, but Robert Sr. also had his own lumber business since 1974 that he ran on their property called Card Lumber. Meanwhile, Robert's mother, Brenda, I'm not too entirely sure what she did. Perhaps she was a stay-at-home mom. But Robert went to Bowdoin Central School, the local elementary school, and eventually he'd start attending high school, I believe in the year 1997. Nothing about his experience there was given out, except the fact that he would meet a woman named Kara Lamb. These two would start dating, and their relationship would last past high school. I'll get into that shortly. In the year 2001, Robert would graduate from high school, and then he enrolled at the University of Maine. Here until 2004, he studied engineering, but that year he decided to drop out, not completing his degree. I also read that in 2001, Robert's father died, and he then became like the leader of the farm and stuff. But I also read that his father was still alive, so I'm a bit confused there. But at that same time, Robert was still dating his girlfriend of many years, and sometime in either late 2004 or early 2005, Carol would become pregnant with a boy who, out of privacy, we will call Eric. In 2005, Carol would have Eric, and also on October 1st of that year, this couple would get married. Kara said that she was immediately taken in by Robert's work ethic, and she loved that he had a huge family that farmed and how they had great meals and holiday celebrations. Kara also loved their family traditions, and she wanted to be a part of it. Almost immediately, though, their relationship began to sour, and things really went downhill quick. By 2007, this couple would jointly file for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. This year, Robert would have his only run-in with the law when he was arrested for an OUI. On April 14th of 2007, he was driving and the police pulled him over, and he got in trouble because he was drinking. Robert pled guilty a month later on May 15th, and he had to pay a $500 fine. He was sentenced to 48 hours in jail, and he had a 90-day suspension of his license. Now, going back a few years to December of 2002, Robert enlisted in the United States Army Reserve. He would serve as a petroleum supply specialist and eventually go on to achieve the rank of a Sergeant First Class, E7, and he was assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 304th Infantry Regiment that was based in Saco, Maine. I'm unsure of what Robert's schedule was, but for typical reservists, they commit to 1 weekend a month for training, typically known as battle assembly, and 2 weeks per year for annual training exercises. I believe Robert was originally assigned duties such as managing fuel supplies and ensuring efficient operation of fuel distribution systems from 2003 until about 2013. Robert, during these years, was said to be a normal, nice guy according to those that knew him. In 2013 as well, Robert and his ex-wife Kara obtained an amended version of their divorce agreement. Robert represented himself during all of the proceedings, and they lasted for several years. Kara did say at the time of this that up until a bit later, Robert was a good father. If he wasn't, she wouldn't have let their child around him. But in the year 2014, Robert began serving as a combat weapons trainer at the United States Military Academy in West Point, New York. Robert would do this until basically the end, but he specifically was an instructor at the hand grenade training range. During this time, he experienced thousands of low-level blasts, which are believed to have destroyed his brain, which I'll get into a bit later. Not only that, but it also destroyed his hearing and forced him to have to wear hearing aids. When Robert's son reached high school, they became super close. These two began bowling together in leagues, they played in cornhole leagues, and together they built a garage on Robert's property. Not only this, but they'd hang out pretty much every weekend, and another hobby they took on was fishing. Robert, from the year 2014 until sometime in 2022, was a normal guy. But something that year would really start to change inside of his brain. Robert was about 39 years old at this point, and he lived in Bowdoin, Maine, but in a home alone. He was a pretty normal guy who liked going out and doing things. Two places he would constantly attend were Schmenge's Bar and Grill in Lewiston, Maine, to just hang out and drink with friends, and also for cornhole tournaments. And Robert also went to Just-in-Time Recreation to go bowling. Sometime early in the year 2022, he was participating in a cornhole tournament at Schmenge's, and this is when he met a woman named Joanna Carr. A bit more information there is that Robert was in some sort of cornhole league. But these two hit it off pretty quickly and began dating, and at first, Robert appeared normal. However, sometime around June, he really started to show signs that something was very off. Robert started to say to Joanna that he believes people were talking behind his back and calling him a pet. This included a guy named Joe Walker, who was a manager at Schmenge's. Joanna believed this may have been because Robert could have been spotted with Joanna's children while they were dating, but that didn't really make any sense. I also read that there was apparently another person who had the same name as Robert, or Robert Card, that was on the offender registry, and also that people began to tease Robert as if that was him. Though this could be true, it is stated that Robert began to hear voices around this period of time as well, so it might not be. But one day when Joanna and Robert went bowling, they decided to start talking about finances and how much people spend. For some reason, Robert abruptly got up and he left and appeared very agitated. Joanna said he eventually came back, and she said to him that she has no idea how it could have gotten to that point and couldn't understand why he left. She said that later, Robert apologized, but he just began to become more irritable and sporadic in his behavior. Robert was pretty well kept and had a shaved head and a clean-shaven face while with Joanna, but over time, that would change. By January of 2023, this couple would break up and Robert would continue to spiral down, but even worse. Joanna said that after this separation, Robert pretty much stopped attending events at Schmenge's and that she no longer saw him after this period. Robert would go on to date another woman who was involved in the local cornhole community for a brief period of time, but no information was given about their relationship. What we do know comes from other people, including Robert's child, Eric. So basically on May 3rd of 2023, Eric and his mother Kara contacted Eric's high school resource officer to talk about Robert. Eric was 17 years old, just about to be 18. Eventually, though, another officer would arrive because of where Robert lived, and this is when Eric and Kara began to talk about their concerns of Robert's mental health decline. They said since January of that year, Robert was complaining that people were talking bad about him and calling him names behind his back. Eric also told police that he was afraid because Robert just recently moved at least 10 firearms to his home from his brother's home. Eric continued by saying that a few weeks prior, when he stopped to visit, Robert became very angry and started to accuse Eric of talking trash about him and behind his back. The mother and son further stated that other members of Robert's family, including his sister, would try to call for help for Robert several times, but nothing came of it. They also said that Robert was in denial of how bad his mental health was getting and that no efforts they gave were successful, that Robert became more withdrawn. This day, it was decided that the deputy on scene would reach out to Robert's Army Reserve unit and Robert's brother to find out more. This deputy called the Saco Army Reserve unit and spoke to Administrator Gretchel, who said that other members of their unit also had concerns of Robert's mental health. This administrator then gave the deputy First Sergeant Mote's number. Sergeant Mote was a senior, non-commissioned officer, a part of Robert's unit, and a full-time Ellsworth police corporal. The deputy had talked to Sergeant Mote about what's been going on with Robert, and Sergeant Mote had no idea it was as bad as it was. Sergeant Mote told the deputy that he would notify the company commander, Captain Jeremy Reamer, that there was something going on with Robert and to figure out what to do. After this, the deputy would call Robert's brother, Ryan, and they talked for a long time. Ryan told the deputy that he didn't know Robert picked up his guns and that he was concerned about this. He further told the deputy that Robert had even more guns in their family gun safe at their family farm. Ryan told the deputy that him and his wife will try and talk to Robert later in the evening. The next day, on May 4th of 2023, the deputy called Kara, Robert's ex-wife, to talk about how it went with Robert's brother the night before. Apparently, when Robert opened the door on his brother and sister-in-law, he had a gun in his hand and told them that he felt people were casing the place. Kara further stated that eventually they went inside and Ryan talked to Robert and that Robert agreed he needed to see a doctor. This day, the Card family, Kara, and the deputy all would attempt to get Robert's army unit to get him some help. Later in the day, the deputy spoke to Sergeant Mote again and told him what they figured out, and Sergeant Mote told the deputy that the plan was to sit Robert down soon and see if they could talk to him to figure out what was wrong. This deputy warned the sergeant about how Robert had a gun when he opened the door. After this call, the deputy sent out a message to his entire department and told them to be careful when going to Robert's home because of his paranoid behavior and how many guns he has. The only follow-up from this was that about a month later, on June 2nd of 2023, this deputy texted Sergeant Mote that he received another call from Ryan Card about how their family was still concerned about Robert's behavior, and they wanted to talk about getting him admitted to a hospital. Sergeant Mote, I don't believe, replied, as the deputy asked him to also call him, which Sergeant Mote did not do. Now, about a month and a few weeks later, on July 15th of 2023, Robert and his unit had went to West Point in New York to help train 1,200 incoming cadets. Apparently this day, Robert got intoxicated and began to threaten other members of his unit and tell them how the woman at the front desk thinks he's a He also refused to allow commanding officers to conduct a room inspection and was very defiant and hostile. The next day, Robert's captain would have the police called to talk to Robert. At first, the bullies talked to the captain and other members of the unit, and then Robert. I'll play a bit of both for you.
So, he goes in, he's slamming the doors, he grabs a 12-pack of blood, slams the door shut, goes up, pays for it, walks outside. And at this point, he's getting aggressive, he's balled his fists up, and he's going after him, yelling at him, I can't believe you're calling him these names. So he turned around, rather than engaging him, he turned around and just walked away from him. He didn't pursue it. We get back up here, And he's like, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. Backstabbing motherfucker. I'm his first sergeant. So we kept knocking, nothing. With answer, nothing. So we went down, got a key, came back up, and with security forces. Went into the room. Really wouldn't acknowledge us. Kept asking because he had a key to a rental vehicle. I didn't want to take a chance of him taking my car.
Yeah.
So he gives us a key to the rental vehicle, rolls over, would talk to us now.
Okay.
So we searched the room, looked around, didn't see, there's no weapons that we can see.
Yeah.
This guy does have $20,000 to $30,000 worth of guns and rifles and stuff.
At home.
Yeah, at home. I didn't see any sign he had anything in there.
Okay.
He had only drank 4 of those beers out of that 12-pack in the catering and stuff.
He's like hearing voices, like it's like paranoia to like the nth degree. Like it's weird. It's really weird.
I asked them, do you think there's any possibility he's using any sort of illicit
I don't
drugs?
think so. I'm actually UPL for the unit, and I've picked him up on many tests. He's never came up. I really think it's like those hearing aids. He's like picking up like different frequencies maybe, and it's like he's lost so much weight since 6 months ago. Like his face is sunken.
Yeah.
He took his shirt off at the pool. He's like all skin and bones. I couldn't even believe how much weight he's lost. I've known him for a decade.
Yeah.
I've been in this unit for 10 years, and he's never looked like that. It's
When
just
was his last deployment?
he's never deployed.
Oh, he has?
No, no.
What's the deal with the hearing aids?
He had surgery on one of the really tiny bones in your ear.
Okay.
But it keeps like growing like calcium, and he's been applying for hearing aids for years, and he finally got them. And I'm telling you, ever since he got him there, he says he's picking up like conversations across the room, and that people are saying that he has a small and he's a people in his town are saying stuff. Everywhere he goes, his family had an intervention with him, and him and his son were real close. His son won't even talk to him anymore.
Really?
Somebody went on his Facebook, and his entire Facebook is wiped. He like started afresh without his family members on it. It's weird.
So when now he's at work and he's saying that he heard these people were saying he has stuff.
Oh.
So he actually started taking like pics.
He took a dick pic, that's right, and he showed the people at work. And his
So
boss
that's-
is like, "Yo, man,
Yeah,
you can't do that."
Yeah,
I
right.
know, like,
Yeah.
Robert, this is Trooper Katz with the State Police. Can you open the door for me, please? Thank you, my man. You want to throw a shirt on? I'll come in and talk to you. What's going on that your staff is concerned about? You're calling us.
Because I flipped out on someone messing around with me, and they're cowards and ran away, and
Okay.
I didn't do anything wrong. I haven't been physical with anyone.
Yeah, no one's alleging that.
Yeah,
No.
no.
So
There.
what was it that caused the issue last night?
They keep saying shit behind my back. I confront them, and they pretend like I'm hearing stuff. It's happening everywhere, so
All right.
hearing bits and pieces of all of it, and it's just getting old. And I confront people, and it doesn't stop.
Okay. All right. So we talked to a few of them today, and they're saying like nothing like that is happening. They're talking about how good of a friend they are to you. You guys have been great friends for a decade now, and they're not sure what's going on. They're not saying these things behind your back. They're not calling you names or anything like that.
Yeah.
And they're concerned because they don't understand why you think that they are.
I don't know.
I mean, you say that they're talking about you behind your back, but you actually hear them saying these things,
Yeah,
or
I'm hearing them. Yeah.
okay. Well, so why would they tell us that they weren't saying those things?
I don't know.
I mean, does it make sense that someone that you've been good friends with for over a decade would all of a sudden just start saying these things about you?
It's happening everywhere, so yeah.
What do you
it's
mean by
making
that?
A lot of sense.
What do you mean by that? It's happening everywhere.
At work, I had to quit my job, go to a different place to try to leave it, and then it's there as well. So,
What were they saying at work?
huh?
What kind of stuff were they?
Getting, I like little boys, I like little girls.
And what kind of stuff were your friends talking about you?
Same exact stuff. It's the same thing over and over.
Do the people at where you work know the people that you serve with?
They live in Boston. They're all somewhat close, yeah, areas.
But do they know each other?
Do they know each other?
I don't know.
Okay. So when you say you hear bits and pieces, how do you hear the bits and pieces?
Just throwing in conversations, or when I turn my back.
Oh, so you're...
Then I go and confront them, and
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's happening because one guy at work actually had the nuts to say, "Yeah, this isn't what an innocent person would do. You wouldn't be walking away pretending you don't hear him." So I know it's happening because everyone's f***ing with me. It's getting old.
Okay.
Robert, are you on any prescription medication right now?
No, I'm not.
Nothing at all?
No.
Okay. All right. They mentioned that you have some hearing aids, right?
Yeah.
That you... How long have you had those?
4 months, 3 months now.
Okay. How long have these issues been going on at home, work, here?
Been about 6 months now.
Okay.
And
All
when
right.
did you say you got the hearing aids?
3 months ago,
3
because I was hearing shit, and everyone was looking at me and talking, and I watch people. That's what I do. And no one looks at me. No one talks. Like, I'm pretty invisible until all of a sudden now everyone knows who I am.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. All these rumors, freaking. I don't know. I've heard it's online someplace. I can't find the shit. No one will tell me about it. But
What do you mean when you say it's online?
all of these rumors about me being gay,
But you haven't been able to find it online anymore.
I haven't. No.
Okay.
Did someone tell you that it was online?
I've overheard it. Yeah, just little bits and pieces. I'm just catching
Okay.
over and over.
Okay. The staff here is concerned about you. To the point that they have command directed you to talk with a counselor. Okay?
Alright.
So they are in the position now to take you to a counselor today to talk with someone.
Alright.
Okay? Do you know where that would take place?
I have no idea.
So that would take place over at Keller at West Point, on the other side of the river. Are you familiar with that place?
No.
Okay. So it's a drive up the Taconic to 84 across the river and then back down just because of storms shut down a couple roads for us. Okay. Are you willing to do that?
I have to if it's command directive, obviously.
Okay.
But
Well, I mean,
is it going to help
when I say-
anything? No.
I don't know.
I would rather have people stop talking, stop looking at me. I'm a fucking private person that don't like my shit up there.
I can understand that.
Yep. I can too. These guys here have been your friends for a long time, right?
No, apparently not. So.
But no, think
But this is a new development you're saying in the
Think
last
about it.
6 months or 3
Yeah.
months you're saying,
Yeah,
man, you know?
right? Up until, what, 6 months ago or so.
I don't have any real good friends, obviously.
But I don't believe that's
but-
true. I think something's going on.
Something's happening, right? Because up until 6 months ago, right, you trust these guys with your life, right?
And
Every weekend, I
we're both
guess.
service members.
Yep. I know how it
And
is.
there's nobody tighter than your
Yep.
brothers.
I hope you understand that they're concerned enough about your welfare that they called us.
Oh, because they're scared, because I'm going to friggin' do something, because I am capable.
Like, what do you mean by that?
Huh?
What do you mean by that?
Nothing. No.
Okay. So if you give me your word that you'll go with
20
them.
years, I shouldn't even be here. I tried to get out of this AT. No, you have to come. Oh. Can you guys give me a chance to get dressed?
After this, Robert's captain issued an order to have his mental health evaluated, and Robert was then seen at the hospital in West Point and transferred to the civilian Four Winds Psychiatric Hospital in Katona, New York. He would stay there for 19 days until August 3rd of 2023, and this didn't help at all. While he was hospitalized, the workers there told Robert's captain they were concerned that he had access to firearms at his house and that they heavily recommend that as many measures be taken as possible to safely remove all and any weapons and firearms Robert has. They also recommend that Robert go to every follow-up appointment after he gets released. He was prescribed 60 olanzapine 10 mg tablets. This is an atypical antipsychotic. Robert would only take a few of these, and then he stopped taking them because he said they made him lazy, and then he would never go back to this facility. He also didn't return any calls or emails and failed to do what they recommended. Robert's captain, for some reason, did not report this to the Saginaw County Sheriff's Office. After this, Robert's mental state would deteriorate even further and very rapidly. About a month and a few weeks would go by, and on Wednesday, September 13th of 2023, something happened again. Robert was hanging out with his long-term Army Reserve buddy, Sean Hodgson. These two met in 2006 and became super close in 2007 when they both got divorced. From this point forward, they became best friends. Sean said that he believed he was the closest one to Robert besides his mother because he pushed everyone else away. That he also believed Robert and stuck by him, and that he was the last one that Robert pushed away. Robert told Sean what he was telling everyone else, how people were talking about him behind his back. One specific incident is where Robert was apparently at the bowling alley and he said hi to a small girl, and the father of that girl then snatched her away. But on that September day, Robert and Sean hung out and decided to go to the Oxford Casino in Maine. These two were having a good night, and eventually it would come to an end, so they decided to drive home early in the morning on Thursday, September 13th. Robert was the one driving. While returning, Robert started talking about people who were calling him a pedophile again, and how he's going to shoot up places, and Sean told him to knock it off. Then, Robert became very erratic, started punching the steering wheel, causing these two men to almost crash multiple times. Robert said that he has guns and is going to shoot up their drill center in Saco and a few other places, and that he's going to get them. Out of the blue, Robert then punched Sean in the face, and Sean kept begging to be taken to a gas station and let out. Robert complied with Sean's request, but still kept freaking out, and then I believe he just let Sean out randomly. When Sean exited, he told Robert, "I love you, and I'll always be here for you no matter what." Sean would eventually get home, but what Robert did would really kind of haunt him for a day or so. So early the next day, on Friday, September 15th, at 2:04 a.m., Sean decided to text Sergeant Moat something that is very ominous and foreshadowing given the circumstances. I'll now read that to you. He said, "You up? I have something to report. Change the passcode to the unit gate and be armed if SFC card does arrive, please. I believe he's messed up in the head and threatened the unit other places. I love to death, but I do not know how to help him, and he refuses to get help or to continue help. I'm afraid he's going to f up his life from hearing things he thinks he heard. When I dropped him off, he was concerned his weapons were still in the car. I believe they were at the unit. No one searched his vehicle on federal property. And yes, he still has all of his weapons. I'm not there. I'm at my own place. I believe he's going to snap and do a mass shooting." After this, the next day on Saturday, September 16th, news got to Robert's captain about everything, and the captain called the police. Saco police then went to the National Guard facility where they were at, and also a statewide alert went out that Robert was armed and dangerous and made threats to shoot up the National Guard armory. Robert was supposed to be at a drill that morning, but he never showed up. The police would then go talk to Captain Jeremy Reamer about Robert, and I'll show what I can from that.
So so this all came in, and that initial kind of, I guess, my first time seeing it kind of from elsewhere pushed out a lot of the stuff that you guys, I'm a cop in New Hampshire, so a little bit different than how you guys do it. But yeah, so he pushed out that stuff to pretty much everybody in the state about him being more of a check walker to make sure that he's good. So kind of covering everything. We sent the sheriff out to go try to make contact at his house. He wasn't able to find him there. He did reach out to us, or he responded to us. He actually called me yesterday. I spoke with him. He was angry, but never made any specific threats over the phone to me, like, "Hey, I'm gonna come shoot everybody" or anything like that. And he's still angry about what happened kind of over the summer. I asked him, "Are you gonna come to drill?" He's like, "No, I gotta work." So he drives truck. for a company. I forgot which company he drives trucks for, but so he kind of drives. He's like, I gotta work this whole weekend, so I'm not expecting him to actually be here. And we kind of went back and talked. My first round talked with the guy who made the initial, like, sent us all the text with all the stuff that kind of blew everything from where everything kind of came from.
Yeah.
Able to really give any specifics. The guy only specifically mentioned one of my soldiers and said he wanted to punch him. That was kind of the only specific. I want to punch him. Like, that was kind of the only specifics. He did say, that he would shoot places, but never specifically mentioned here. Never specifically mentioned any specific, according to this one source, which is not the most credible of our soldiers. So he doesn't have. It came in at 2-something in the morning, so was he drunk? So we don't really have all that, and when we try to nail it down with some specifics, he wasn't able to give us much, so it kind of didn't help any. So just kind of what we kind of came up with is like, all right, we'll see if we can get a check being on the guy, make sure he's good, and then we'll just let you guys know, to kind of being aware of what's kind of going on.
Yeah, so they've had us all basically staking out the place. So basically, we just want to know if that needs to continue.
I don't see that I need to tie you guys up to do that for the long term. I mean, I have you guys obviously in contact with you guys. Kind of know here, you know where it is. If something does come in, I mean, the one specific person that was targeted, I told him today if he does show up, you'll be the person who picks you out and just drive off. So then we can try to.
Does he have access to get through the gate?
He probably knows the code to get to the gate. I don't think he has any of that stuff to get in anywhere else, but
okay.
Well, we got a couple of other cops here that hopefully can de-escalate things and calm them down. At this point, probably if he does show up, we'll probably just give you guys a ring and be like, hey, can you just come on out, just in the event that something turns. But we'll do our best to kind of de-escalate and handle it on our end as far as we can, and I'll probably get that one guy out and get him out of here so he doesn't escalate for whatever the reason, because he does have mental health issues. I'd say probably schizophrenia is what it is. He's delusional. A lot of things about being but nobody's saying a word about it. So that's kind of the deal. So,
all right.
Any other questions?
No, we just kind of wanted to see if you had any more information to give us.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, so I did speak with him, and he's not supposed to be here, is what he's told us. And that came from both a text message to somebody else, as well as a call. So, we'll take it as that, and we'll keep an eye out for him, and we'll give you guys a call.
Later in the day, the police would attempt to visit Robert. Now, the police couldn't get into Robert's house or talk to him, but they could hear him inside. They decided to do nothing because they didn't want to put fuel on an already burning fire, as they put it. So instead of attempting to stop all of this from happening, they went to Robert's father's home in Bowdoin to talk to Ryan's brother. Nothing was successful from this entire ordeal. In fact, because Robert made these threats, Maine has a yellow flag law, which is a firearm restriction statute that allows authorities to temporarily remove firearms from individuals who are deemed to pose a threat to themselves or others, but only after specific legal and medical steps are followed. The Saginaw County Sheriff's Office had more than sufficient cause to act under this law, but they failed to do so. This was a huge misstep and potentially could have prevented a lot. But unfortunately, it didn't. Ryan, Robert's brother, tried hard to get them to secure Robert's firearms, but was basically told the family needs to secure them themselves. After this, the lead police officer on the case decided it was closed and went on vacation, that there was no need for him or the police any longer, and that the matter was resolved. So Robert at the time was also employed by a company called First Fleet Trucking, and he delivered bread daily to another company, Country Kitchen. He had been doing this for the past 6 months or so, and when he first started making the deliveries, he made a comment to an employee that said, "I'm not gay or a pet, but just show me where the bread goes." On Thursday, October 19th of 2023, Robert went to deliver bread to Country Kitchen, and while there, he told an employee that he knew that they were talking about him and told him that maybe they'll be the ones he snaps on. Robert got into the face of this employee, but that was about it. This employee said that he believes Robert was hearing voices. The last time this employee would ever see Robert was on October 24th of 2023 at about 11:30 p.m. The next day, what Robert would do was absolutely sickening. On October 25th of 2023, Robert Russell Card II woke up with pure evil intentions. I can't find any details about what he did during the morning and majority of the afternoon, but we do know what he did later in the night. At some point in time, he finally snapped and decided that it was time and that he had enough. He was going to get back at the people that he believed were calling him a pet and talking badly behind his back. Robert first decided to write a small note to his son, which I'll read to you now. Dear Eric, phone passcode is blank. Passwords for accounts are in Samsung Notes. Love you and enjoy your life. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. I guess I just wanted to play cornhole with my hot girlfriend and be left the f alone. Next, Robert got his arsenal ready, and this consisted of a Ruger S-FAR 308 semi-automatic rifle with an extended magazine, a flashlight, and an optic. He also brought with him a Smith & Wesson M&P 40 caliber semi-automatic pistol and a Smith & Wesson M&P 15 .223 caliber semi-automatic rifle. Robert put them into his car, and then he left his home in Bowdoin, Maine, and drove about 15 miles to the Just-in-Time Recreation, a bowling alley in Lewiston, leaving his cell phone behind. This evening, a youth bowling league event was taking place, and there was a bunch of children and their families and coaches there. Robert got out of his car carrying the Ruger rifle, and he then entered the bowling alley at 6:54 p.m. Right after entering, he fired a single shot, but the rifle jammed. Immediately, two brave men who were best friends named Michael Delorier II and Jason Walker, both 51 years old, who were there with their partners for some casual bowling, recognized what was happening. Jason yelled for everyone to get down. Afterwards, these two men ran after Robert in an attempt to stop him. Jason tried to kick the weapon out of Robert's hands, while Michael approached Robert from behind, but unfortunately, Robert was able to clear his jam, put a new magazine in, and fatally shoot both of them. Next, a 34-year-old manager at the bowling alley named Thomas Conrad tried to stop Robert, but he too was fatally shot. After this, Robert decided to basically shoot at anyone he could, and he ended up killing 5 more people and injuring 3 others. Of those killed were 53-year-old part-time employee Trisha Asselin, who was bowling at the time, 44-year-old William Young, who was the father of 14-year-old Aaron Young, who was there for the youth bowling event. 76-year-old Robert Violet was a youth bowling coach and also started the league, and he died protecting the children. The last person killed there was Robert's wife, 73-year-old Lucille Violet. After Robert Card killed all of these people and injured others in just 45 seconds, he left the bowling alley. This was at 6:55 p.m., and the next minute at 6:56 p.m., the first 911 calls were received. The police wouldn't arrive for 4 minutes until 7 p.m. Meanwhile, Robert had another place in mind. About 4 miles away from the bowling alley was Schmenge's Bar and Grill, a place he also commonly frequented. And on October 25th of 2023, they were hosting a cornhole tournament. There was a lot of local community members there, and a good portion of them were actually a part of the deaf and hard of hearing community. Robert arrived to the bar at 7:07 p.m., and once again, he got out of his car armed with the Ruger rifle. Robert entered the bar and then walked towards the area where the cornhole tournament was taking place. Immediately, he began shooting at anyone he could, and there's not a very clear sequence here. We do know that the manager, a 57-year-old man named Joseph Walker, tried to stop Robert. Joseph picked up a kitchen knife and then ran at Robert, but unfortunately he was shot twice and killed. Afterwards, Robert would continue his rampage, shooting at anyone he could. At 7:08 p.m., only 30 seconds after Robert began shooting at the bar, the first 911 calls were made. Then, about 45 seconds later, one of the patrons of the bar did a smart thing and turned the power off inside of the bar. This essentially caused the place to go pitch black. Only 6 seconds after this, Robert left the bar, and 4 minutes later, law enforcement would arrive, but Robert was nowhere to be found. At Schmenge's, Robert killed 10 people and injured 10 others. Those killed were Joseph Walker, who was 57, and the bar's manager, Joshua Seal, who was 36 and a sign language interpreter and advocate for the deaf community. Brian McFarlane, who was 41 and a member of the deaf community and participating in the cornhole tournament. Stephen Vozella was 45 and participating in the cornhole tournament, and he was with his wife, Megan. She survived. William Brackett, who was 48 years old and a part of the deaf community, he was also participating in the tournament. Max Hathaway was 35 years old and went to the bar to celebrate receiving his college degree. Ronald Morin was 55 years old and at the bar to play in the tournament. Peyton Brewer Ross was 40 years old and was participating in the tournament that night as well. Arthur Strout was 42 years old and playing pool at the bar with his father, who did survive. The last victim was Keith McNear, who was 64 years old and in Lewiston to celebrate his birthday with his son. Robert, after killing all of these people, would get out of there, and I'll talk about that in a second. The police response was that at about an hour after the shootings, at 8:06 p.m., they released 2 images, one of Robert, which was this photo, and an image of his 2013 white Subaru Outback. They also warned the public that Robert was armed and dangerous. At 9:26 p.m., the Lewiston Police Department received a phone call from Robert Card's sister, Nicole Hurling, who positively identified Robert as being the shooter. 30 minutes later, at 9:56 p.m., Robert's car was located about 8 miles away from the bar at the Bajep Boat Ramp in Lisbon, Maine. However, there was once again no sign of Robert. There was a bunch of stuff in his car, including his rifle, but he was nowhere to be found. About an hour later, at 10:52 p.m., the Lewiston police named Robert Card as a person of interest in the shooting. The next day, on October 26th of 2023, at about 5:30 p.m., the police and FBI surrounded Robert's home and were yelling, "It's the FBI! Open the door!" A few hours later, and at 8 p.m., the FBI broke into Robert's home, and he was once again nowhere to be found. They did find the note addressed to his son, but other than that, nothing to really go off of. So the next day, on October 27th of 2023, police would continue looking very heavily all over the place. In the afternoon, they received a call from the owner of Maine Recycling Corporation, a company where Robert had worked. He suggested that they search the company's overflow parking lot, and the police did. At 7:45 p.m., Robert Card's body was discovered in a trailer in that overflow parking lot. An autopsy was performed, and it showed that Robert, about 8 to 12 hours prior, had taken himself out. It also found that he was not under the influence of anything and had nothing inside of his system. After killing 18 people and injuring 13 others, the only true question one can ask is why? Robert, before the year 2022, was a normal, well-liked guy who was funny and a good father. What could have possibly changed him so much that he would commit such a heinous act? A neuropathological examination was done of Robert's brain that was conducted by the Boston UCTE Center. This examination revealed that Robert's brain exhibited severe signs of a traumatic brain injury, but there was no evidence of a CTE. The doctor who led this, Anne McKee, said there was no possible way to definitively link these findings to Robert's behavior, but that it was very likely his brain injuries played a large role in what happened. This is believed to have been caused by all of the low-level blasts that Robert endured while he served as an Army instructor. Normally, with these type of cases where a person commits a heinous act, I'm very against them and don't pity them. However, in this case, I'm a bit conflicted, as for Robert, it's very clear that whether or not the TBI was the cause, something happened in mid 2022 for him to start going downhill and believe that he was hearing voices and that people were talking about him. His family and friends tried very hard to get him help. They really did all in the best that they could. Unfortunately, both the army and police failed in these regards, as they should have been able to take away Robert's guns, especially after he threatened to commit a shooting at Saco and the armory. Robert also should have been committed for much longer than 19 days, and he should have gotten the help he very much needed, regardless if he wanted it or not. What an absolute tragedy. Rest in peace to all 18 people who were killed in this senseless act.